Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar today, presented to you by SME Membership and the Corporate Membership Program. My name is Graham Immerman and I serve as the Member and Industry Relations Manager for SME. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Benchmarking Performance, Where Do You Stand versus Your Competition? And our presenter today is Graham Immerman, who is the Director of Marketing for MachineMetrics out of Massachusetts. A couple of housekeeping rules for today. This webinar will be approximately 1 hour long, 45 minutes in presentation, 15 minutes of Q&A available. The attendees' phones will be muted during the webinar to cut down on background noise. If you have a question that comes up, please log your question in either the chat or Q&A windows on the WebEx screen, and after the session and following the presentation, I will ask Graham the questions that come in. This presentation is being recorded and will be available to you and on SME Connect within 8 to 10 business days. If you do have any difficulties during this webinar, you can email me at remory@sme.org, or you can use the chat function on WebEx as well to let me know your technical difficulties. Again, today's webinar is Benchmarking Performance, Where Do You Stand versus Your Competition? The speaker is Graham Immerman. Graham is the Director of Marketing for MachineMetrics, a venture-based industrial IoT manufacturing software startup, and he has quickly become an industry expert in digital manufacturing transformation and industrial IoT applications. The youngest member of the Forbes Communication Council, Graham is already an accomplished, experienced startup veteran with an integrated background in digital, social, traditional, account-based marketing, growth strategies, and business development. Graham spent his early career working on Madison Avenue at global and boutique marketing firms to help craft successful digital marketing strategies for brands like Adidas, Reebok, H&R Block, and Starbucks. So I'd like to welcome Graham Immerman as the presenter, and Graham, you have control.
Well, that's great. Hey, thanks for hitting all those buzzwords, Ralton. It's really nice to be here, and thanks for to SME for hosting us today. While I load our presentation up, I just want to encourage you all that if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out through the chat function. I'll do my best to respond to them while during the presentation. As well, you can always email me through the links provided. And my objective today is not just to pitch MachineMetrics and why I love our company and what we're doing for the industry, but more so just to be here as a resource to you all, to educate and help manufacturing embrace the new technology that will allow us to be competitive, not just today, but moving into the future of our industry. So here's my contact info, and if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out. So quickly, I just want to look at what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to go through a whole lot of stuff, and I'll try not to go too fast, but fear not. And as many presenters said to me before when I'm scribbling notes, don't worry about it. I can send you all of these slides, after the presentation. But firstly, I just want to do a quick introduction of who I am, who we are. I promise to keep a quick product plug, and we're going to hop right into the main topic today, which is benchmarking. Why is it important? Some of the other topics that we're going to talk about today is building your roadmap to Industry 4.0. How do we do it? The cloud advantage. What you're potentially missing out on if your fears of the cloud are stopping you from investing into that type of infrastructure. And then, of course, the real product plug, which forgive me, but it's my job to do. So apologies in advance. That said, and as Ralton had insinuated on the beginning of the call, I assure you that these buzzwords will be involved in my presentation today. I will do my best, and feel free to boo me in the chat if I bring them up way too often. But the truth is that defining these terms, understanding what they are, and not being afraid of them is really important as we build a roadmap into the future of this industry. But in the end, they're just a bunch of buzzwords, and they have real meaning behind them. And some of my goal for today is just to talk a little bit about how we can use some of these to be more competitive within the space. So a little bit about MachineMetrics. MachineMetrics is the industry's first AI-driven machine monitoring and predictive analytics platform. We were designed really specifically for the discrete manufacturing industry and machine builders as well. We're an award-winning solutions. Last year, our two of our products were actually named Smart Manufacturing Solution of the Year. And this year, our latest product for machine builders that allows them to provide you with better, faster service by remotely monitoring machines was also named the Smart Manufacturing Innovation of the Year. So we're really proud of those things as we continue to add resources to help define solutions that can help you into the future. We were founded in Massachusetts. Every piece of our product was built here in the United States by our developers. We are a venture-backed company, and our team, we're not, that classic Silicon Valley startup was started by a bunch of guys seeing a market opportunity. We really were started by industry veterans, some of manufacturing engineers, shop owners, people who lived within the space and understand the problems and the opportunities that can be presented by capturing and visualizing and analyzing the data that's everywhere on the shop floor, but tends to just kind of, get shot off into space or, crumpled up on a piece of paper or written on a whiteboard that, gets smudged and erased at the end of the day. Some of our, I guess some of our customers here, and these are, right now, we took a bottoms-up approach to the market. So our initial customers are, small to medium manufacturers, like maybe some of you. And as we move forward, we've added global companies such as the ones that you see here today. Our average customers land anywhere between 10 and 10,000 machines. So we have that unique ability to provide value to companies all across the industry. In reality, what we're building is the opportunity to provide manufacturing intelligence to the industry, powered by MachineMetrics data. The data that we're uniquely able to capture off machines is what empowers our ability to provide this real-time visibility to manufacturers like yourselves, to R&D departments of machine builders, to service technicians who are trying to service machines better. That real-time visibility, the deep analytics into the data, and the predictive alerts are what empower our ability to help manufacturers, perform better now and later as well. Right now, hundreds of manufacturers are using the MachineMetrics platform to measure and analyze the performance of thousands of machines across their global factories. And our solutions are providing these, necessary real-time visibility into production, automatically recommending ways to improve performance, warning shop floor workers of pending problems, and even predicting maintenance events to reduce unplanned and costly outages. So, I think that's a little bit enough about, what we're going to talk about, because we're going to get into this a little bit later. But the two ways that we find that are best to drive improvements are by improving operational efficiency. And this is what many of you have either seen before or are interested in, which is, how we are able to, visualize data that come off, any type of machine, whether it's a modern or legacy machine, and provide that in insights back to manufacturers. But, we found lately that we've been able to find equal value to our customers by taking the conditional data off the PLCs and through auxiliary sensors to improve their equipment health as well. These are the two factors that we found create the most amount of downtime for manufacturers. So we're combating this two-headed downtime beast in two different ways. Now, end of product plug number one. I wanted to start off with this page because I think it's really important that we talk about, adjusting expectations. So as you can see here, the first closest answer to this question posted to the chat window today will win a free MachineMetrics t-shirt of your choice. I assure you there's some cool designs and they come in all different sizes. But really the heart of this is, what is the average equipment utilization rate for a discrete manufacturer? Do you know what's going on your shop floor right now? Now, the average, on top shops, which many of you I'm sure participate in, the average, capacity utilization percentage from the top shop study shows that median, right? And this is self-reported data, right? Not actual data that come off the machines. Show that the median is about 75% utilization, right? While other shops land more in the 65% of utilization, right? So what they're trying to say is that your average shop is landing somewhere between 60 and 80% utilization. I'd like you to ask yourself the question as to whether or not you think that that's accurate while you vie for your T-shirt in the Q&A or chat function of the WebEx. So I'll give you 5 more seconds, and then I'll move on and reveal what the answer is. So thank you for your participation. I will definitely release the winner at the end. But just so you know, that the average machine utilization rate of a MachineMetrics customer when they begin monitoring in 2018 is 28.4%. At this point, and when I'm not on mute with customers, sometimes I will actually hear a gasp when I demonstrate that number. And it's a really important number to know, right? Because the truth is, if a top shop is supposed to be between 60 and 80%, and in reality, the average machine utilization rate is closer to 25, 30%, there's a massive disconnect between what's actually going on and what companies think is going on. Just something to take back with you today at the end of this, is to ask yourself this question: do we really know where we stand? Right. So in order to do that, MachineMetrics has compiled what we believe is the largest set of manufacturing data of any company in the world. Companies that work with us, number one, data is anonymized on the back end of MachineMetrics, and before we do any sort of analytics or in-depth data science on this data, and just to precede any questions on this matter, we work with some of the most secure companies in the country, from defense contractors to aerospace companies. Just to throw that out there, your data is obviously safe with us, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But the value that we're able to provide back is incredibly valuable. Benchmarking performance within this space has been really a notoriously difficult task, because with the thousands of different types of machines and control types, understanding and actually benchmarking CNC performance has been a bit of a unicorn for manufacturing analytics. And as you saw before, self-reported surveys in reality are often quite inaccurate. Sorry, Gardner. Sorry, top shops. So I think that until now, really, no business has had the ability to actually demonstrate this data. And just so you know, any MachineMetrics customer gets benchmarking reports, from a monthly or even weekly email that lets them know exactly how well they're performing relative to those industry standards that we alone are able to provide them. So this is a sample email that a company may get from us. Maybe they have a vertical milling department, a Swiss CNC market, horizontal lathing market, or maybe all their machines combined. And what we're looking at is how well these shops are performing, right, relative to the industry standards. In this instance, we're looking specifically at type of machine, right? So in this sample report, and this is again anonymized data here, this customer would be able to see that their utilization rate in their milling department is 26%. Now, the only thing in this instance that really matters is how does that compare to the industry average, right? Maybe, 26% is in the 90th percentile, and they should feel really good about that. In this instance, that's not the case. The standards are much higher than that, and that percentage actually lands in about the 30th percentile. So they know, based on the data that we're able to provide back to this manufacturer, that their vertical milling is not up to standard. In fact, is far behind other companies within the space. However, their Swiss CNCing is performing quite well. In fact, at the 93rd percentile. I think we'd all feel really good if we were in that percentile when we took our SATs. So the question that we need to ask ourselves, right, is does it make more sense to us to specialize into Swiss CNC? Do we need to focus our improvement efforts on the vertical milling part of our business? Where do we stack up in each component of our business to ensure that we're performing up to par and or above par, so we can be more competitive within the space? So looking even deeper into this data here, this is some of the data that we're able to uncover just across the industry, which is and some of this is actually really interesting. If you take a look, we're able to actually compare when people are actually using their machines. So for the last month, we've aggregated data to help us paint a clear picture around when people are actually using their equipment. And we can clearly see that around 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. is when machine usage is at its highest. 2 shifts a day, right? No surprise really here, but it's cool to be able to see this in reality and say this is actually when we're using our machines the most. Now, one thing that we can learn from this is that if we are hoping to increase our machine capacity, perhaps this type of information could help us justify, whether it means adding additional shifts will help us do that, or whether or not we need to find and understand our top reasons for downtime during the shifts that we're actually have our machines available, so we can increase that overall capacity. And on the right side of the screen, we're seeing the average throughput for companies that are in a high throughput, like a high volume, low mix shop, and a low volume, high mix shop. And these are the standards that we're seeing across our customer base, which is of statistical significance. So it's really interesting stuff. Not necessarily groundbreaking for you right now, but it shows you the power of this data and how it might contribute to your continuous improvement plans. Taking a look here, again, just kind of interesting data is really showing how often machines are being used by day of week, right? So as the cartoon to the right says, somebody's got a case for Mondays. So it is clear based on our data that Mondays are the days where our machines are utilized the least. Now, again, if we're trying to find ways to increase our capacity or find continuous improvement opportunities, look no further than this type of data. Why is it that Mondays get such worse utilization of our equipment than Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? An example of how we've been able to help a customer root that out is we learned that setup times on their Monday lag significantly because the machines, operators are coming in from the weekend unprepared to get their machine set up, right? So by just visualizing this data and starting to measure the company's setup times on Monday mornings, they were able to decrease that setup time by almost half. And that's really where we're starting getting into seeing how this data can be significantly valuable for you. Of course, Saturdays and Sundays tend to be lower utilization days, but if we're looking to expand our capabilities, right, or even find ways to increase capacity, those days provide significant opportunities to run our machines, to make them available. So this is just a little bit of interesting benchmarking data here on utilization trends across horizontal milling markets and stamping markets. We can see key dates, within this, pretty clearly. And as you see here, highlight are, this is the classic beginning of the year sprint, right, when machines are utilized more often than not. And then you'll see your standard dips for summer, or Thanksgiving, or even Christmas here. And then we're back to that same trend of beginning of the year sprint, summer, and the same thing that you'll see here within the stamping market utilization. We can actually see, quite literally the dips on Thanksgiving and Christmas within our data. Now, of course, right, that makes sense because many shops are closed on these days. But it's really interesting data that might help us understand and even predict when we might have dips, and that can help us contribute to understanding what materials we need to buy, which is a big facet of making sure that our ERP system and our interrelationship between our other systems are functioning properly. Staffing needs, you name it. There's so many different ways that this data could, in theory, be used to create a more expectational model for your business. The last tidbit of data that I'm allowed to show you today, and I assure you there's a whole lot more interesting stuff on the back end of MachineMetrics than this, is a little bit of a heat map. So this heat map, you can see key days, for instance, like July 4th, right here. You can easily see, holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and this is really giving those visuals to when machines are actually being utilized and when they're not. So I think this is really cool stuff. I hope that you find it to be really cool too. Obviously, it's really important to know where you stand. We release these reports to our customers again, weekly, monthly, or even quarterly. And it really gives you that fundamental understanding of how you're performing relative to the industry. It can be even segmented by machine type or even industry vertical, automotive, aerospace, you name it. I think really, one of our customers kind of said it best in how they use this data, which is that we implemented MachineMetrics really to deepen our connection with the machine and the data, because of course the data is always honest. We might tell ourselves we're the best, but having actual benchmarking data that positions us amongst our peers will allow us to back that notion up. And I find the second half of his quote much more insightful, which is the question now is no longer where we stand, but how do we increase our percentile while maintaining employee health? This could justify further automation. Now, I think that's really interesting because say if you're at the industry standard, or say that we've reached our capacity for what one can achieve through a certain type of machining, then the question is, if it's not about improving the way that our employees are functioning, or we've complied with all our continuous improvement, and we're improving further and further. What else can we do to increase our throughput and our capacity? And automation, that's the goal, right, of this whole Industry 4.0 buzzword, and is that it's all about finding more ways to be competitive, to get better and better every day. So I think that's really interesting, that quote from him. So key takeaways from this little section is know where you stand. There's nothing more important to that if you're going to actually it's like getting on the scale when you get to the gym, right? We want to know which workouts are helping us improve the most. And knowing where you start is the most important part, so you can understand what's working, what isn't. Benchmarking is also going to allow you to identify opportunities to focus certain improvement efforts, right? Maybe certain days of the week, certain shifts, certain types of machining are behind industry standards, and understanding those and identifying those opportunities will be really important for us moving forward. Lastly, justifying technology investments. If we've hit our thresholds of how well we can actually perform, right, then maybe what we really need to do is invest in new technology that will help us, find and even maybe automate certain processes that will allow us to make more with what we have currently. So I appreciate you, joining me through that part of the presentation. I'm just gonna I'm going to change to my head running out here.
Does everybody still hear me?
Yes, we can, Graham.
Thanks, Rollin. Those dang Apple AirBuds. So here's a couple facts that I want you guys just to kind of chew over as we proceed into the next section of our presentation. Manufacturers are investing in Internet of Things, IoT, Internet of Things. It's one of those dang acronyms, but that's what it stands for. Sometimes when I talk to customers, they laugh, and they're like, that's what it stands for? Are you kidding me? Internet of Things? Anyways, what it really means is like bringing the connectivity and the internet to a certain technology. So within the manufacturing space, manufacturing is actually one of the projected to be the largest driver of IoT spending over the next decade of any industry vertical. One of the reasons why that is because it's the furthest behind by far of any industry. Right now, for instance, within the marketing space, we're over 90% digitized, and from email marketing to social media, it's all automated, right? But within the manufacturing space, we're really still in our internet moment, right, where it's just starting to be adopted. That said, the numbers don't lie, which is that 72% of companies are going to be spending significantly more in the next 3 years in IoT technology. 60% of companies right now are already involved in IoT initiatives. Now, this one I find particularly interesting, which is that while cost reduction is seen as the biggest driver for most companies at about 69%, however, the ability to improve their product and develop new channels of business was a very close second. So, investing in new technology is actually the primary driver for reducing overall costs for a manufacturer, right? Automation should, in theory, lower your total costs with that upfront investment, right? But secondarily, being able to improve your product and develop new business models are a really close second value add to why companies are investing within this space. I think the whole point really is that things have changed, right? And as changing business models are becoming more and more competitive, many companies globally are starting to take on these latest technologies and preparing for the evolution of today into the future. I do see your questions, by the way, on the side, and I'll get into kind of how we capture the data when I'm allowed to do my product plug. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So the truth is, like, amid this whole hype, right? Industry 4.0, Industrial IoT, digital transformation, all the buzzwords, right? It's really caused this huge culture shock. But the truth is that the benefits are just far too significant and to ignore, and are going to help companies deliver these competitive advantages. We like to say that MachineMetrics is your competitive advantage in an everyday, more competitive landscape. But still, there's this hesitancy for many manufacturers to embrace the technology, and I totally understand why. Number one, not having a true clear vision and strategy for how we're going to actually implement the technology. Despite companies investing in the space, 50% of companies have no roadmap for how they're going to actually roll out any sort of digital manufacturing solutions, right? And that makes it even harder to invest. Number two, they don't know who to invest in, right? Most companies say that they lack knowledge of partners. Who do we work with? And obviously, the third, which I think a lot of you probably relate to, is that do we have the right resources internally to drive projects like this? I think a lot of us can relate to this, and a lot of our data shows that 21% at least of all U.S. companies, not just in the manufacturing space but in general, are facing a talent obstacle as their biggest roadblock for transformation. I think it's much higher, frankly, within the manufacturing space than in others. So, and of these projects, which I think is particularly interesting, 74% of industrial IoT projects end up being failures. And I don't say that to you because I want to scare you. It's like if failure is what scares you off from a project, and I know a lot of you are, whether you're starting your own business, you own your own business, or you have that startup mentality of trying to grow your business. Failure is just one try. And a lot of these companies are failing for a couple really specific reasons that we can learn from, and you don't have to fall to the same reasons why they've failed. Number one, they have no clear purpose for the implementation. Why are we implementing technology, right? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve? Number two, oftentimes companies will say, yeah, let's put like a machine monitoring product on one of our machines, right? But there's no plan to scale this implementation, right? So they end up living within a space that we like to call pilot purgatory. Which is when companies just start too small, they don't have enough investment into the actual implementation, and it just gets pushed to the background, right? It's not really a focus. Number three, no internal leadership, right? So we find that customers that are most successful in this space tend to have internal champions or somebody within the company that is driving the project. And having drivers are obviously really important, but equally important is having internal alignment. And many companies that in the past that have failed with these IoT projects, they don't really have a C-suite to operator alignment. What are our goals? We're all on the same page with how we're trying to achieve these tasks, and even more so, we found that a lot of these projects are actually driven by the shop floor themselves, and the shop floor is trying to prove to management why they want this new technology, and management sometimes is more data driven. By more data driven, I mean more fiscally driven, right? So being able to have that fiscal side, understanding what the value proposition is from an ROI perspective, and then looking back on the shop floor and understanding what the value prop is for them as well, and having an alignment between that management and the people who are going to be implementing this technology are all reasons why many companies who don't do this tend to fail. Because of that, many manufacturers are just stuck in this state of relativity or reactivity. And what I mean by that is, you come in the day after work, you had an all-night shift or a lights-out shift, and the machine was down, right? Or at the end of the day, we were supposed to hit a certain parts goal, and it turned out that we didn't hit it, right? Because of why, right? Well, there's probably 100 different reasons, right? And the story is told through the data, but without visibility into that data, it's really difficult to understand what's actually happening that's leading to that. So, and thus, this state of reactivity, which is, oh crap, we're behind on this order, or oh crap, what are we going to do now, right? This is something that is entirely avoidable, and one of the top primary reasons why companies are using MachineMetrics today are because that visibility into what's happening in real time allows them to maybe understanding that a machine goes down, getting a notification, right, to the shop floor manager, the night shift, to let them know that this machine's gone down, not after the whole shift is run, but when it's happening, so we can go out to that machine and try to get it up and running again, or if we misquoted how long a certain job was supposed to take, and we find out through the MachineMetrics job view that this job takes a lot longer than we thought it did, we can reallocate some of our resources to that job in real time, right? So now we're taking ourselves from reactive to proactive, right? Which is, how do we make changes right now that are going to help us serve our customers better and make more money? So in the end, it's about building this roadmap, right? And to build what I like to call a digital transformation roadmap, you can't know where you're going without knowing where you are, right? So stepping on the scale baselining and benchmarking your business is step one within anyone's digital transformation roadmap. Capturing the data off the machine, understanding what's happening in real time. Just to quickly answer a question that I see has been coming through some of the chats. The way that we capture data is most oftentimes directly through the PLC. We have over 200 in-house adapters that we've developed that collect over 100, even 200 data points directly from the control of the machine. And that allows us to have significantly more data than, say, like just a vibration sensor to let us know when the machine is on or not on, or running or not running. It's the difference essentially between taking a blood test and putting my two fingers to my pulse and seeing whether or not I'm alive, or actually analyzing, what's really happening. That's the difference between, many other, platforms and what MachineMetrics is able to do for a company. I can obviously dive into that a little bit deeper later. So once we start capturing that data, baseline ourselves, understand, what's actually happening, then, it's really all about preparation, right? So if you're going to install MachineMetrics, or for that matter, any other company, within this, within the IoT space, here's a few areas for you to focus on when you're considering building your roadmap, right? Organizationally, right? Where do we stand now, right? Does our team have the right people in place to implement new technology, and do we have project leaders that we want to put in charge of this project? Communication, right? Some companies will come to us and they'll say, does my operator's telling me this and I want to know that, right? And I totally understand that, but the truth is that it's not always the operator's fault. Sometimes that we find just through the data that we've actually misestimated some of our expectations for jobs that are, maybe a setup time actually does take longer than we expected. So readjusting at our communication tools we found is a really important part of the preparation. And MachineMetrics, we found, is a huge facilitator in better shop floor communication. The conversations go less from what the hell happened last night to, we see in the data here that certain things are happening on the shop floor. So what can we do to help you do better, right? And we see that time and time again, that communication between the shop floor management, even upper management, is really what facilitates improvements within these shops. Obviously, tools, right? What tools are we going to use to improve, right? Is it machine monitoring? Is it condition monitoring? Is it ERP implementation? Is it quality management systems? Having the right tools are only as good as understanding what it is we're actually trying to measure, right? So key performance indicators are really important within that space as well. And digital connectivity is a huge component of that as well, right? So actually having your shop, making sure that your shop floor is connected and up to date and performing up to standards, I think is one of the best ways to get yourself prepared. Many shops just don't have IT infrastructure. And that's okay, but sometimes it's going to preclude you from having successful implementations for technology, MachineMetrics or otherwise. So really the moral of the story here is twofold. One, implementing technology, whether you win, whether you fail or achieve success, means you're staying ahead, right? You're continuing to test, improve, and that's going to give you a competitive edge, right? And two, defining your roadmap is going to help you understand what implementations you're going to need to within a certain roadmap, not just, hey, we're going to, throw augmented reality headsets on all of our operators, right? So they can use VR, right? But it's like, which technology makes sense to start with, right? Is it data capture? Is it monitoring, visualization, what's on the shop floor? And then step two is, okay, what's next? Right? And then what's next? If our goal is to head towards automation, how do we define that roadmap and have clear-cut KPI objectives that say, hey, this was success for us, right? It's hard to have a successful implementation if you don't actually know what success is. So what steps can you really take right now to create immediate value? When and where to invest your time and your resources, and how to advance to your next stages. These are the questions that you can ask yourself as you build your roadmap to success. some of our recommendations are start small, but not too small, right? If you start too small, no one's bought in, right? And there's not enough investment for anyone to care. Define success, gain alignments, right? Internally and operationally. Understand, address security risks, right? Free up data if you need to, right? So where is the data and where do we want to capture it from? But at the same time, avoid data overload, right? Finding tools that allow you to digest that data in a really simple to understand, easy to use way is going to be paramount in your success. And then really, cultivate a technology-focused culture where it's not about educated guessing or finger pointing. It's really about the data. The data doesn't lie. The data drives our improvement from day one into the future. So these are the key takeaways here, right? Build a roadmap and stick to it. Avoid the mistakes of others and learn from them and learn from your own. And then start now, right? That's not just a product plug. You can use MachineMetrics or anybody else. In the end, it's a win for us as long as companies are investing in technology and improving themselves to be more competitive and survive, into the future of the industry. Just due to a lack of general time, I'm going to kind of skip our brief cloud presentation. The key takeaways here from this part of the presentation is the cloud's here to stay, and that's a good thing, right? The cloud security is not really the issue anymore. It's an issue of internal processes. For instance, like Equifax, the largest security breach, was not about being an on-site, even though it actually was an on-premise server that got hacked, not a cloud-based server. It was an issue that one guy was in charge of installing a driver that changed, that led to the largest data breach in the history of the world, right? So the real question here is not about cloud versus on-premise, although we believe that the cloud presents significantly better opportunities for manufacturers like yourselves, but more so, it's an issue of making sure we change our passwords, making sure that no one leaves things logged in, right? Making sure you don't leave a data stick in the middle of a parking lot. That's actually how some of these security breaches start. It's just these processes that go haywire. So those are my top takeaways from the cloud. And if any of you want to talk about cloud, as I said before, we work with some of the most secure companies in the world, and we leverage Amazon Web Services, multi-billion-dollar security infrastructure, which allows us to provide the highest level of security to our customers. And the truth is, we're not capturing program data, we're not capturing designs or CAD designs. We're capturing diagnostics off the machine, aka the machine health, and the productivity data that allows you to improve your operational efficiency and that allows you to improve the way that you maintain the health of your equipment. So the truth of the matter is you should be worried about security, but the data we're collecting is not something that should prohibit you from utilizing cloud technology. So with the little bit of time I have left, and I'm happy to stay as long as everyone else would like to today, but I'm going to quickly do a review of MachineMetrics and some of our solutions. As I said before, the two ways that we combat inefficiency is through improving operational efficiency, tracking OEE, identifying production bottlenecks, taking action with real-time notifications. MachineMetrics has that unique ability to capture data from any machine, and any of these data points, right, can be a trigger for a real-time notification. I will definitely talk about the anonymized data on the back end. That somebody has asked that question. It's a data science question, and it's part of the opt-in clause that we work with customers that say, your data is yours alone. We don't share that data, and it's also owned by you. We only use data from a data science perspective to provide these benchmarking results back to our customers, and also the predictive notifications, right? So, for example, if we want to know, just in this example, whether or not a certain, a model of Swiss machine, the alarm on that Swiss machine is going to be a catastrophic alarm, or is not something you really need to worry about, right? We can, over our aggregate set of data, right, we can tell you which alarms from which types of machines are causing the most significant downtimes, and you can create a notification within your system that says, this is what happens, this is, that lets your guy know that when that alarm occurs, there's going to be, with a high level of statistical significance, a machine crash or a spindle crash or a bar feeder error, and you can take actions that stop these from actually occurring. I guess I have a question from one of our chat members, which says, are we gonna get into the meat and potatoes? By all means, if there's something that you'd like me to dive into a little bit deeper, I'm more than happy to do so. I encourage you to ask any and all questions that we can help to be more productive for you. So the other way that we really focus on improving companies is through equipment health. So MachineMetrics Health, which is our latest product, really allows maintenance managers and process engineers to keep machines running using real-time condition monitoring. So our customers can manage their machine assets and view real-time equipment status and conditions, diagnose problems through deep alarm and analytics. And at the back end of MachineMetrics, of course, we have the ability to drive predictive notifications using our proprietary AI and machine learning driven engine. We can also help you manage preventive maintenance tasks. You can even share your machine with your service provider if they're having a significant problem, and they can help you service that machine in real time without having to wait for someone to come on site. To dive a little bit more into like how we do it, this is if you'd like, this is more of the meat and potatoes. We have edge devices that enables us to connect to any modern or legacy machine via Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or even cellular connectivity. And we can connect to those machines either through the PLC or through the controls themselves. One thing that makes MachineMetrics very unique is that we can also add any digital or analog sensor to that data. So we're not just collecting, all of the data points that come off that PLC, but we can also add additional data points if you're interested in, say, doing like a deeper dive predictive analytics on, why my machine is crashing, and we can augment that machine data, through those digital I/O and analog sensors. That data then flows through our IoT gateway, which is a firewall. It actually protects your shop floor by having our IoT gateways attached to these machines, and where we then filter and buffer the data and into our cloud-based application, which is where we ingest and aggregate and store the data. We then, we have our proprietary rules engine, alerting engine, benchmarking engine that learns from the data and provides it back to you in applications, right? So MachineMetrics Production gives you, visualizations for KPI dashboards, OEE, performance alerts, right? So a good example is, is my cycle time falling off course, right? We can send you a notification to let your shop floor manager know that, an operator has, lowered the feed rate or increased the feed rate on a machine. We can give you part analytics to let you know that, when certain parts are being produced, are they being produced their most efficient? And even at a much, deeper dive level, downtime categorization. So we can really understand which downtime reasons are our bottlenecks, and which ones we really need to focus on and which ones we can focus on right now. So health, again, preventative maintenance optimization, tool life management optimization, condition monitoring, asset management. These are the features that allow you to focus in on the health of your machines. And we can create a notification for virtually any health component of your machine, right? Whether it's a load that goes too high, we can send a notification. We can let you know, when a preventative maintenance task is due through our alerting system. We can alert you when an alarm over time has, our system has recognized that it causes significant problems. And of course, your maintenance guys can now manage all these tasks through our platform. You can integrate MachineMetrics with any ERP system. We have an open API that would allow you to do so. And that's something that we get asked a lot. And that's definitely, you can also create custom dashboards, if you have those capacities on your side. Now, just to give you like a little bit of a look for some of the ways that we visualize the data, this is like a basic explanation of a real-time factory dashboard. Just putting this data on your shop floor, we have seen increases productivity by 10% or more on average. And that's just within the first month, right? It's pretty easy to tell which machines are doing well and which ones are not, right? Green is good, red is bad. And we find oftentimes that operators will literally start competing with themselves to make sure that their machines stay in the green. And what's funny about this is that if oftentimes they can't, then they start looking and helping you understand the top reasons why. Now, sometimes we already know why because we're collecting the data off the machines, right? And we have these tablets that visualize data for the manufacturer, for the operator. This is like Google Maps or even Waze for the operator. So this is just another way that the data gets visualized. And so this gives the operator a really clear indication of what's going on the shop floor in real time, and helps them stay on task on their jobs. But when a machine goes down, right, it will automatically have a drop down that will help them better understand what's going on in that shop floor, and why that machine might be down. You can customize this to be any of your top downtime reasons that you're looking to understand. And adding this additional context to the machine data, right, when the machine alarms out, or what the errors, the faults, or all the other data that comes off the PLC will help us understand, categorize, and put into like a graph, a very simple graph, what our top downtime reasons are. Of course, because we are a cloud-based technology, one of the most valuable pieces is that this data is available through any secure internet connection in real time to whoever needs it. So, for instance, and notifications will be sent to your phone or through text or email for a variety of various reasons, just depending on what you'd like to get notifications for. Good question. Real time or next to real time? It's at a millisecond lag. So I consider that to be real time, but I do respect and appreciate the question, Kamal. Thank you for asking that. In the end, the reason why we think that investing in the way that we approach this is really important is because we're constantly building new features and new capabilities in our system, and we release those to customers whenever they come out, right? You're not buying like the 2014 version of an app, right? You need to have something that learns and improves just like alongside your business. So our customers ask us for features, and we build them into our product roadmap. And in the end, most of our customers, even the largest customers that we work with, global companies, live within this descriptive analytics space. Some are graduating to the predictive analytics space. And looking forward, our platform is going to be able to help you along your analytics roadmap of not just describing what's going on, but why it's going on, when it's going to happen next, and then what we can do about it to ensure that our machines, don't break, right? That's really how do we avoid significant downtime? That's the goal of having all this data. Through this data, we're really answering questions that at this point, no other company in the world can. These are some of the ones that we, some of these obviously other companies can, but we like to, some of these we believe that we'll be one of the first companies that really cracks the catastrophic tool failure dilemma. And of course, benchmarking we think is incredibly valuable. And, so this is just a little bit about, some of our customers who, find, significant value in what we do. And, oftentimes our customers, at an average increase their capacity by about 20% in the first year. And these are just some of their quotes. At this point, I kind of would like to open this up to, the Q&A section. Forgive me for just kind of running through all this.
All right, thank you, Graham. Again, this is Ralton Emery with SME. A couple of questions that come in that I'd like to go back to, if you don't mind, Graham, is you touched on it briefly, but what's the typical installation of the solution look like?
Typically, our customers start with like 10 machine licenses. That gives them the ability to, that's our minimum engagement. That allows them to connect there between 1 and 10 machines. If they're, modern machines, post 2006, or even 2004 in some cases, where they have Tension Connect or Static Focus or, like Siemens or Heidenhain controls or, the more modern controls, over 50% of our customers are actually plugging and playing their machines themselves. And we find that that's a really, great way to get them up and running. And then that first month is usually a baselining where they'll baseline their business, understand what's actually going on. Then they'll install the tablets on their shop floor. We're not a hardware company. We provide out-of-the-box stuff to companies if they like it. We provide it at cost. We don't upcharge for our hardware. For legacy machines, sometimes we will have to utilize I/O devices. If there is no connectivity available through a PLC. Ideally, we're going to PLC to get that deep data, load, speed, conditions, alarms, PMC parameters. So that's the type of stuff that we're looking for. To answer your question, Kamal, that's 10 machines per 10 licenses per facility. Unless you want to self-install the machines, then we can talk about a little bit differently.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Yes, thank you. One quick thing, please. If you could put your earbuds back in or your headset, your audio got worse there.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay. Next question. Can a customer opt out of sharing their data, of their own data? And can you, again, go over how the data is used if they do share it?
Yeah. So, in theory, customer, is allowed to opt out of the data sharing. The downside is that, we wouldn't be able to provide a customer, the majority of the capabilities that make, what we're trying to do. And the beauty of Industrial IoT is so effective, right, is that, again, like the question I would ask yourself is, what is the fear of actually sharing data? Right? Is it just like a company rule? Is it because you're worried about the security infrastructure of the way where the data is going? You can also keep certain variables of data out of the data stream to ensure that if there's a certain element, right, for instance, that you would like to not have selected. But the problem is that if you're opting out of the data sharing, what you're not going to get is you're only going to get predictive alerts, right, based on your own machine usage, right? You won't learn from the anonymized aggregate data set. You won't get, automatic updates of all new features that we roll out daily. You won't be able to benchmark your performance against industry standards. All of the value propositions of what the cloud provides and what sharing data with, again, an anonymous fashion, securely with MachineMetrics, is all predicated on your ability to do that. I'm happy to talk to any of you though, a much more technical conversation about how to actually share the data, what type of data items are shared. That's our most common question. So it obviously requires a deeper conversation.
Excellent. There have been several more questions that have come in, but for the purpose of this webinar, we'll call the questions right now. Graham, thank you so much. Please feel free to email Graham. He is sharing his email address on the screen with the additional questions. As well, you can go to SME Connect if you're an SME member, post them there, and we will interact with you on SME Connect. I do appreciate your time today. Again, this recording will be available in 8 to 10 business days, and we thank you for attending today's webinar presented by SME and SME Corporate Membership. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.